So, if you don't know what's going on over in America at the moment with the cancellation of Jimmy Kimmel, the right are basically proving that all their protestations that they were so in favor of free speech, yeah, they never were. They were only in favor of their speech and what they wanted to say. And if anyone else had any different opinions or anything like that, well, that was fine to be perfectly cancelled, as we've seen. But over here in the UK, there has been for the past couple of weeks a very similar story for Reform UK, because their leader of the council over there, Mick Barton, decided he was going to place a ban on not only Nottinghamshire Live, but also the local democracy reporting service, which is a service funded by the BBC so that local reporting can be carried out for places and provided by places like Nottinghamshire Live so that they can carry out and do funding for local journalism, something which had been a big problem, mainly, of course, funding. Most of these places had to, of course, rely on there being an actual active, good local paper to be able to do that. Lots of places, of course, have lost that. That's why the local reporting, local democracy reporting service, funded again by the BBC, by the license fee, in fact, is such a good idea, and it has been and proved to be a very good initiative. But of course, Reform and, of course, Mick Barton have had a very, very big authoritarian streak since coming into office, not wanting to have, shall we say, disagreements in the council chamber, telling any opposition councillors to come and speak to them behind closed doors if they had any problems. Heaven forbid that that should be discussed in an open council chamber. And of course, they did not like the fact that Live was reporting about stuff that had been reported in a meeting between two, reform councillors, basically saying, yeah, if we don't vote the way Mick Barton wants us to vote, he's going to remove the whip from us. Something, bear in mind, Mick Barton has never denied, bear in mind. But needless to say, this then led, after they then reported this and, did their journalistic due diligence about all this, Mick Barton then issued a ban, not only to Nottinghamshire Live, but also to the local democracy reporting service as well. Meaning that they were just saying, we are not going to, interact with you. We are not even going to give you any press releases. We are not going to invite you to any events. We're going to ban you from even speaking to our councillors. And this is, bear in mind, still ongoing, where at a recent full council meeting, they refused to have this discussion. Now, at the end of the council meeting, there are questions asked. And normally what happens if there are extra questions or things want to be asked, well, then you have to vote for the extra time to be enabled so that this question can then be asked. What, of course, did the Reform and councillors do? Well, they then voted not to have to allow this extra time so that this discussion could be had. Once again, trying desperately not to have this conversation about how they have basically said, we are not going to allow free speech or even free and fair reporting about what's going on to the people of Nottinghamshire on their council. Yeah, remember, guys, free speech party. But this is something I think any opposition party should be throwing this directly, constantly at Nigel Farage every single time. Absolutely. So let's carry on and dive into this, because this is becoming, I think, an absolute mess for Reform UK. It is becoming a very damaging story for them. And the longer this goes on, I think the worse it looks for them. And to be honest, opposition parties should absolutely be jumping on this every single time this comes up and saying, hey, look, Reform UK, party of free speech, why have they banned local newspapers from speaking to their councillors? Right. Anyway, but before, of course, we go more into this, please do, of course, remember to click the like and share button. And, of course, don't forget to ring the bell as well so you get notifications of when we go live or when we drop a new video. And it is, again, even more important now with the YouTube changes to the algorithm that you are hitting the like button and, of course, leaving a comment down below on that front. So thank you very much to everyone who does do that. Like I say, down below as well, there's the links to my Patreon page. There's the Buy Me Coffee link where you can, well, buy me coffee, the YouTube thank you button. And, of course, as always, there is the YouTube membership down below as well. So let's crack on then into this, following up on this story again about Nottinghamshire Council banning local reporters from reporting on them. So, Reform councillors now swerve public discussion about a ban on Nottinghamshire Live. Some councils claim that they're now being silenced, but Reform's meeting chair, Councillor Jan Gould, said that the claim was now utter nonsense. But why did you vote against extending time to have this meeting on this? Anyway, let's go on to this. So, Nottinghamshire, of course, County Council's leading reform group voted against an extension now to a meeting so that a discussion could be held over the banning now of the press. The ban currently prevents Nottinghamshire Post and Nottinghamshire Live and the BBC-funded local democracy reporting service that it manages from now interviewing council leader Mick Barton and his other 40 reform councillors. Councillor Barton has now further informed the council officers to also stop sending out press releases and to stop inviting journalists to events, except now in emergency situations. This move has now been widely even condemned nationally and internationally, with the issue even being raised in the US Congress at the beginning of September. A petition now against the move has now reached over 40,000 signatures. A motion was, of course, proposed by the Boxtel Alliance member, Councillor Teresa Cullen, and Boxtel Independent Group member, Councillor Steve Carr, in a meeting of the full council last Thursday, which called on the council now to support a free press. It further, of course, pointed out that the council should commit to engage with journalists and answer questions on council business, regardless of whether one likes what, of course, is being asked. And then this is where they used procedural rules to dodge answering this question. However, the meeting ended, of course, before the motion could be discussed, with now previous council business now overrunning. And I have to wonder if that was deliberate. Council Cullen then told the LDRS that after the meeting, it became very obvious early in the day that Reform Group were now, of course, talking now on a lot of issues, and of course, making answers really long so that we didn't get as far as now the third motion in the afternoon. What a surprise. This is actually a typical tactic you use all the time, and then you go, oh, well, we can't discuss this. We've run out of time. Typical tactic on this front. But yeah, just to say that Councillor Mick Barton coming into this said he didn't play tricks or wasn't going to play any in this stuff or engage with stuff like this. He's just done exactly that. Anyway, back to this. Councillor Cullen also added, this, of course, puts us very much on the national stage, and to even hear people in the United States talk about Nottinghamshire in terms of no freedom of speech and no free press is just now an absolute embarrassment. It seems now to be entirely because our leader here was made to feel uncomfortable, and it has now certainly happened, of course, to me, but it is part of the challenge. This is now the thin red line to tread to ban people from speaking to the media, because the media is what gives us a free society. Councillor Barton declined to, of course, comment, but he's understood now to be having a meeting with the local democracy reporting services, and of course will be now arranged in due course. During the meeting, Councillor Carr and Councillor Curran raised the point of order to stop a debate over a motion concerning flood prevention, because there would not be enough time to consider two further motions, including now the free press motion. Discussions over the flood prevention had been going on for almost 2 hours, despite all councillors being in agreement and supporting it. What a surprise. This is procedural stuff. Oh, technically, if you see this and you were, say, the chair of the meeting, at that point, you should be going, yeah, everyone's clearly in agreement. Everyone's clearly in support. There's no reason to have any more discussions on this. Right, we need to be moving on. That is really up to the chair. And someone should have been calling out the chair and saying at this point and saying, right, we need to move on to a vote. Everyone is clearly in agreement on this. They also claimed that they were being silenced, but Reforms meetings councillor Jan Goody, again, what surprise on that one, as I said that his course was utter nonsense. When put to a vote, a majority of council decided to, of course, continue discussions now on improving flood prevention. Later in the meeting, about 4:30, then approached Councillor Cullen was then now proposed that standing orders, of course, be suspended, which would, of course, now extended, of course, the end of the meeting and allow the free press motion to be heard. It was then, of course, put to a vote. And while supported by the Conservative group, the leading Reform group, which was the majority, threw it out. Again, surprise, surprise. They do not want to have this talked about at all. The decision, of course, to ban Nottinghamshire Live and the local and the LDRS reporters came now in response to a publication of a story that claimed that 2 Reform councillors could have been suspended from their group if they did not vote for Councillor Barton's preferred preference for a larger Nottingham incorporating Boxtow and Gelding. Discussions, of course, have been taking place between all councils across the city and in the county ahead of the planned local government reorganisation, whereby 2 larger unity authorities could now replace the existing setup now to reduce costs. The ban also comes just after a month after Reform UK's UK MP for Ashfield, Lee Anderson, criticised Nottingham Alive for running too many negative stories about his party. So, yeah, this continues. And good, by the way, good on Nottinghamshire Live for holding them to account. Good on them for holding their guns and sticking this out. Good for them. I mean, you've seen in if you've been following the Jimmy Kimmel stuff, it does look like the group caved. Like they were very much with Kimmel to begin with, and then they got worried about Trump coming in and using their sort of authority on them on this, so they caved on this. But good on Nottinghamshire Live for standing their ground on this, and saying, yeah, we've got nothing to apologize for. It's you who banned us for basically doing our jobs. We've got nothing to apologize for, and good on them for sticking to that. They should absolutely be supported in that way. If you haven't had chance to go sign that petition, you can find it very easily. Go sign it, add your name to it, and just increase the further embarrassment of this on this one. But as always, thank you very much for watching, and of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.